This video is brought to you by Alpine Esports in Gaylord, Michigan. Whether you like Magic the Gathering or playing video games with friends, Alpine Esports is the perfect place for you. Links for YouTube, Discord, and their website are in the description below. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Commander Crane, and we are here with our first paper episode. I'm here with Hunter today, or BG Stilts, as known in our comment section. How's it going, Hunter?
Goes good. How is everybody doing today?
Well, I'm doing all right. I'm a little better, though, because we're going to play some Paper Magic. So today, Hunter is going to be playing green-white scales, kind of similar to the deck that was posted on the channel, I think, about 2 weeks ago or something like that.
That's about right.
But I would say a better version. He's playing a very spicy card in his list. I'm not going to show it off yet, but I'm sure we're probably going to see it at some point. And then I'm going to be playing Gruul Dragons, pretty similar to my list I posted about a month ago. Obviously, a couple changes here and there for the most part. So obviously, as we go through here, we're going to kind of explain our lines, reasons kind of why we made the decisions we did, that kind of thing, and we'll go from there. So, all right, we're going to make a quick cutaway into our game one. We're going to figure out our hands, and we'll see you guys in just a second here. Alrighty, so we got our hands figured out here. You're keeping 7 then?
I am going to keep 7. This looks really solid.
Alright, yep, I've got pretty much what I want. I got 2 3-drops here in Domri and Myglaws, a couple lands, and an elf, which Tournament Elf is really important. How's your hand looking?
My hand looks really good. I have a really solid 1-drop with Experiment 1. I've got 3 different 2-drops I can choose from between Botanical Brawler, Conclave Mentor, Luminarch Aspirant, and I finish off my curve with my one of Spicy card.
I'm in danger. So, all right, we're also going to play as if we don't know each other's hands, obviously, because that would be fun if we played as if we did. So, okay. So, we didn't actually determine who's going first, so we'll go ahead and do that real quick.
That is a very good idea.
I didn't even think about that. That's a 9. That's pretty solid.
Pretty good. More than 8.
I'm going to take the plate.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, start off with Lana Rolf. Go ahead.
Draw for turn. I'm going to play a Temple Garden untapped. I shock it in for 2 life. It can tap for either a green or a white. I'm going to tap it for a green. Play Experiment 1. A 1-mana 1/1 with Evolve. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under my control, if that creature has greater power or toughness than Experiment 1, I put a 1/1 counter on this creature. And then I may remove 2 +1 counters from it to regenerate it. And I'm going to pass the turn.
Okay, well, I drew another land. I'm already pretty land heavy. So I can play the Myglaws or the Domri. I think on this turn, I just go ahead and play the Myglaws. So I'm going to play this as the red, as the Crag Crown Pathway. We'll go ahead and play Myglaws. Gets 5 old counters. I can remove 1 to give it Vigilance and Menace, remove 2 to give it +2/+2, and remove 3 to destroy an artifact or enchantment. Go ahead.
I'm going to untap and draw for turn. So we just drew a nice Branch Loft Pathway here. I'm actually going to play it on the white side. Since I have a second one in my hand, I can play for green later. And then with him playing a 4/4, I am going to tap a green and a white, and I am going to cast my Conclave Mentor. So
I'd rather you didn't.
Conclave Mentor states that if 1 or more +1/+1 counters will be put on a creature I control, that many +1 are put on it instead. And when Conclave Mentor dies, I gain life equal to its power. So when Conclave Mentor enters the battlefield, it is going to trigger Experiment 1's Evolve ability. And with the Conclave Mentor being on the field, it gets 2 +1/+1 counters put onto it. And since he has a 4/4 and all I have is a 3/3, I am going to pass the turn to him.
Okay, well, so for those who haven't played against this deck, Conclave Mentor is one of the problem is all of his cards you have to be able to answer them pretty much, or it's kind of like a snowball. It'll just kind of keep rolling. So I think here play my Mutable. I'm gonna go ahead and play my Domri Anarcha Bolas. Gives my creatures 1/0. I can give it a loyalty and add red or green mana. Creature spells I control can't be countered this turn, which is not relevant in this matchup. But I can -2, I can fight something. So I think I need to go ahead and kill the Conclave Mentor. So I'm going to fight Myglaws with the Conclave Mentor.
This Conclave Mentor will die to his Myglaws, and when Conclave Mentor dies, I will gain life equal to its power. So its power is 2. I will gain 2 life and go back up to 20.
I think in this case, I do want to get some damage in, though. So I'm going to remove a counter to give it Vigilance and Menace. And I'm going to attack for 5 because I'm getting the +1 from Domri. So, card's nuts.
Does it have haste?
I played it last turn. I played turn 2 Myglaws, turn 3 Domri. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will take 4. and go to 16.
It'd be 5 because of Domri.
5,
Yeah,
15.
card is cracked. Card's cracked. All right, go ahead, Hunter.
We are going to untap and draw for turn. So now, in a situation like this, with him having a big planeswalker that can beat me down with his Myglaws, we're going to actually just play the Branch Loft Pathway, and then I am going to decide to play Luminarch Aspirant, a 2-mana 1/1 that at the beginning of combat on my turn, I may put a 1/1 counter on target creature I control. So, in this situation, I'm going to move to combat, put my 1/1 counter onto Experiment 1, and then I am going to attack for 4 at the Domri.
So, man, this is tough. I don't really want to trade Myglaws for the Experiment one, but I think in this case, because I have a Storm Breath in my hand, I think this is going to be the way I win here. I think I do offer the trade here. I think I offer the trade here.
And the trade will happen.
Okay, all right. He could sacrifice 2 counters to regenerate it, but at that point, he wouldn't kill the Myglass, so at that point, that just makes sense for him to trade there.
And I have nothing else to do on my turn, so I will pass.
All right. Something good. Oh, that wasn't good. It was another land. All right. This is tough, because now you could put 2 counters on the well, you could put a counter on the Aspirant and kill Domri, but I think at this point, I think I want to race. I guess, actually, I could just tick up and I could leave the elf untapped, so never mind, we're okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and make a red, and then tap here, and we'll play a Stormbreath Dragon.
Oh boy.
So 4/4 for 5, flying haste protection from white, and it has Monstrosity 3, which I'm not going to go and read that because I don't think it'll be relevant here, but if it does, I will read it. And we're going to get in there for 5. I can leave Llanowar back, and it's a 2/1, so I could trade with the Aspirant. And yeah, Stormbreath's a 5/4 because of Domri's static.
And unfortunately, I have no answers to this, so I am going to be going to 10.
Go ahead.
I'm going to untap and draw for turn. Was hoping to draw another land there, but unfortunately I did not. So this is starting to look like it's going to end up being a very tough matchup for me now.
Stormbreath could be interesting because it is pro-white, so I am protected from I think pretty much all your removal actually, at least in the main board. So it could get interesting.
So with what I just drew, I believe that I am going to just go ahead and play another Conclave Mentor. This is going to allow me to, when I move to combat, I'm going to put 2 1/1 counters on my Aspirant, which then allows me to attack his Domri without the risk of losing my Aspirant to his Llanowar Elves if he decides to block and save his Domri.
So I think in this case I have to block. I have to throw the elf under the bus here. Unfortunately, I would have liked to have been able to potentially untap and win with the Monstrous ability, but I think I have to leave the Domri back because I've got the Mutavault. I've got a lot of options. I don't have any in hand because I just have 2 lands in my hand, but we'll go ahead and we'll throw the elf under the bus here.
Okay. And I have nothing else to do on my second main phase, so I will pass the turn.
All right, let's see if we can draw. If we draw another dragon here, we win. I think that's kind of our main win here. And we drew a Llanowar, so that's not it. So the Conclave Mentor is really gross, but I almost think at this point, I kind of want to put him to 5 and kind of say, show me what you got. I think that's our best option here. I could play the elf. I could attack with the Mutavault too, but I don't think... I think I just leave the Mutavault back on defense. I think... Oh, because we put him to 5. If Domri dies, then... Oh, this is really interesting. We could fight the Luminarch Aspirant too and take it out. But I don't think I want to lose Domri here. Because I think I'm trying to put you in a 2-turn clock here. So we'll go ahead and play the Copperline tapped. And then I will move to combat, and I'm just going to attack for 5 in the air.
I have no creatures with reach or no responses, so I will go down to 5.
To 5. I think we just tick up the Domri, and we play a Llanowar Elf, and then we have the Mutavault to block. Go ahead.
I will untap all of my stuff and draw for turn.
I also don't want you gaining life with the Conclave Mentor, so it wasn't a good fight. It's tricky for sure. It's a tricky line, but
very. So in this situation here, with what I have just drew, I don't believe that I am going to be able to play the play that I was thinking in my head, which was playing both of my 2-drops this turn. But since I drew no land, I believe what my play is going to be is on turn 1, or my first main phase, we are going to play a Pelt Collector, which has almost the same thing as the Evolve ability, except for whenever a creature dies, if its power is greater than Pelt Collector's, it gets a +1/+1 counter on it. And if it has 3 or more counters on it, it has Trample. And so in this situation, I am going to move to combat, use Luminarch Aspirant's ability to put 2 1/1 counters onto Conclave Mentor, and I'm going to attack both at Domri, because in this sense, I at least leave 1 blocker back, and hopefully I can take the Domri out and not die to his 5 damage flyer next turn.
Alright, well, I'm going to hope that he doesn't have a removal spell here. I'm going to go ahead and activate the Mutavault. Moved blockers.
Before blocks, I do have some responses. I am going to
prefer you didn't
cast. I am going to cast the card Dramoka's Command. It is a green-white instant, and I get to choose 2. I may prevent all damage target instant or sorcery would deal this turn. Target player sacrifices enchantment. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature, or target creature I control fights target creature I don't control. So in this point, I am going to, I believe, put a 1/1 counter, which will be 2 counters with Conclave Mentor, onto my Aspirant here. And then I am going to have Aspirant fight the Mutavault.
Okay. Alright, so that's down. Okay. And these are both at Domri then?
Yes.
Okay. Well, at that point, Domri's dead, so there's no point in blocking with an elf, so yep, we'll let Domri go down.
And I will pass the turn.
Alright, we are hoping at this point for pretty much a dragon, an invasion, another Domri, so most of our deck honestly is live here. And that was it. There's a Glorybringer.
And that is it.
Yeah, so that's a 4/4, 5 with flying and haste, and we can exert as it attacks. When we do, it deals 4 damage to target non-dragon creature opponent controls, which in this case doesn't matter because we have 2 flyers. So we'll just get in and we'll not exert.
And I have no answers for the 2 flyers, and I'm at 5, so it is going to be game 1.
Yeah, see, definitely needed the second threat there, because I know we were drawing a lot of lands at the very beginning, so it was at that point like, yeah, we need a threat, or your dudes that are bigger than our dragons at that point, we're just going to take over the game. So, alright, we're going to go ahead and shuffle up for game 2 here. We're going to be playing 2 pre-boarded games and 2 post-boarded games, so we'll see you for game 2. Alrighty, so we're ready for game 2. We're both on 6. My hand looks pretty good. I got an elf, I've got a Draconic Roar for the removal, and a Reckless Stormseeker. I don't currently have a dragon for the Draconic Roar, but honestly, that's still okay. How's yours looking?
Mine's looking pretty good. I've got 2 lands. I got 2 1-drops in Pelt Collector Experiment 1. I've got an interactive Snakeskin Veil and a Mana Gorger Hydra if I can get to it later.
Alrighty, so Hunter, you are up first.
So I am going to start it off with a Razor Verge Thicket. Enters the battlefield tapped unless I control 2 or fewer other lands, and this taps for either a green or a white. I'm going to tap it for a green and go ahead and play my Pelt Collector on turn 1. And I will pass the turn.
Alright. So, we bottomed an Elvish Mystic, and then we drew another one, which is hilarious. I'm going to play the Crag Crown Pathway on green, so it's actually Timber Crown Pathway. And then I'm going to go ahead and play Land Robes. Go ahead.
I'm going to untap and draw for turn.
I'd rather you didn't.
Pretty good draw for turn. We're going to play a Temple Garden untapped and go down to 18. I'm going to tap this for a green and cast an Experiment 1. And I am going to offer him to trade by attacking for 1.
So, I think in this matchup, I think this is somewhere where I do want to make this trade. It doesn't feel good, but I think it's something we need to do, because we also have the Draconic Roar in our hand, so we can take out the Experiment 1 if we want to on the next turn. So I think we actually do make this trade, which...
And the trade will happen. I will take that, and I will pass the turn.
Alright, we draw... Okay, we drew another land, which we don't need one right now, but still is fine. I don't know. I think I'm pretty sure I know our deck list. I think he is playing removal, but I still think I'm going to go ahead and pass. I'll hold up the Draconic Roar in response to maybe a creature or something. So
I'm going to untap, and I'm going to draw for turn. And I was really hoping to draw my third land there, but in the sense, since I did not draw the third land, I am going to tap this, one for a colorless, one for a white. I'm going to cast a Luminarch Aspirant.
So Luminarch Aspirant is definitely a problem in this deck. I actually think at this point, I could respond by killing the Experiment one, but I think before moving to combat, I think it'd be better for me to just take out the Aspirant. So yeah, Luminarch will resolve.
So I am going to go to combat, and at the beginning of combat on my turn, trigger Luminarch Aspirant.
Before moving to combat,
okay,
I'm going to go ahead and Draconic Roar it, though, so that way you don't get the counter.
Absolutely.
So, and then I don't have a dragon, so...
I am going to attack for 1.
19.
And I will pass the turn.
Yeah, unfortunately I don't have a dragon here, because Draconic Roar deals 3 damage to a creature an opponent controls. If I have a dragon, though, I can reveal it, and then I can deal 3 to him as well. It's like a Searing Blaze, but I don't have one, because I'm a scrub. But I did draw a Myglass here, which is a pretty good threat. I think I want to play our Reckless Stormseeker first, though. It's a 2/3 for 3, and it becomes day when it enters. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can give a creature +1/+0 and haste until end of turn. So I'm going to target this. I'm going to attack for 3.
I'm going to take 3 because I have no blockers and no open mana.
Go ahead.
I'm going to untap and draw for turn. Still hoping to get that other land, but it looks like we are still not going to get it by drawing the second Snakeskin Veil here. In this situation, the only thing I can really do is play a second Luminarch Aspirant. I'd rather you didn't. Move to combat, put a 1/1 counter on my Experiment 1, and attack him for 2.
I got no blocks, so I'm taking 2.
And I will pass the turn.
Alright, so removal spell would be fantastic for the Luminarch here. We didn't draw it, but man, we drew a pretty good card. So I'm gonna play my Sekenzen. I'm gonna go ahead and play a Thunderbreak Regent. So Thunderbreak Regent, one of the best dragons in the deck. It's a 4/4 for 4 flyer. Whenever a dragon you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability opponent controls, Thunderbreak deals 3 damage to that player. And what's great is I'm gonna move to combat, and I'm gonna go ahead and give this haste, and we're gonna attack for 7.
And I am not going to put my Luminarch Aspirant in front of his Reckless Stormseeker, because that feels like it would be a bad deal for me. So we are just unfortunately going to be taking 7 here.
Alright, you got you at 8, right?
Yep.
Alright, perfect. Alright, go ahead.
I'm going to untap, and it's looking pretty bleak for me at this point. Missing my land drops has really, really hurt. We're going to draw the third land. Unfortunately, it might be too little too late, but we are still going to press on. We're going to play the second Rage of Birch Thicket for our third land. I'm going to tap 3 and cast a Managorger Hydra. It is a 1/1 trampler, but it says whenever a player casts a spell, put a 1/1 counter on the Hydra. And so, I do believe this time we are going to move to combat and put a 1/1 counter on Experiment 1, but we are just going to go ahead and pass the turn this time.
Alright, so at this point, hoping for another dragon. Another dragon would mean... Actually, technically, it needs to be a Thunderbreak, otherwise we don't have lethal. So draw. Okay, we do another land. It's kind of tricky. So we can put him to 3, which, man, if we only had that Thunderbreak region a little bit earlier, that would have been fantastic. So we could play the Myglass here and give that haste and get in some damage, which I don't necessarily hate, because we can pay the 3, we can play the Myglass, and then we can give it Vigilance and Menace, which would be a pretty good play. And I mean, we could trade with like an Experiment 1 and the Hydra, because it'll get a 1/1 counter. I kind of don't mind that play personally. And we put him to 3, so if he has a Dromoka's Command, the Thunderbreak would deal 3, and that would be lethal. I kind of like that play, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and play Myglass, and then he'll get a +1/+1 counter on Managorger Hydra.
From my trigger of my Managorger Hydra, whenever a player casts a spell, I put a 1/1 counter on it.
Okay, so then Myglass gets 5 oil counters. I'm going to go ahead and remove a counter, and I'm going to give it Vigilance and Menace until end of turn. Then we're going to move to combat. I'm going to trigger Reckless Stormseeker on Myglass, and we are going to, we're going to attack for 9. The Reckless Stormseeker is not attacking.
And unfortunately in this position, in order to essentially just give myself another turn, I am going to have to double block with my Hydra and Experiment 1 onto the Myglaws.
Yep. So, yep, I'll do 2 and 3, and then these are gone, and then you'll take 4 from the Thunder Chicken. So you're at 4.
I will be down to 4.
And I'll pass.
I will untap and draw. And as late as it came, we drew the 4th land. So now we are going to move to combat, put a 1/1 counter on Luminarch Aspirant, pass the turn, and we are probably going to lose.
All right. So since he didn't cast a spell, it does become Night, which does that. And then now, so instead of the 1/0 in haste, it gives +2/+0 in trample in haste. So even better for us. And we're just in top deck city right now, so that's cool. Let's see, what do we want to do here? Could target that. We actually could target. I think technically this would be the best play. So at this point, we're thinking he might have a Dromoka's Command. You have 2 cards in hand, right?
I have 2 cards in hand.
Okay. So at this point, I'm definitely reading Dromoka's Command. Not that it's able to take out either of our creatures. So at that point, we're really not too worried about it. So we'll just go ahead and attack. We'll move to combat. I'm going to give... I think I actually give this... well, because I can put you to 2, but if we target the Storm Charge Slasher, then it gets trampled.
I am actually at 4.
Oh, you're at 4? I forgot the... Oh, you're at...
turn,
yeah. Oh, you're at 4. Yeah, we'll target the Storm Charge Slasher, and then we'll go ahead and get in there.
And that is game.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Yeah, I feel like I was overthinking that a little bit, but yeah, I was like, oh, he's at 8. Yeah, well, we forgot to up the dice. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead and move into the post-border games here. We'll be back in just a second, and then we'll kind of show what our sideboarding strategy is, and then we'll go from there. So we'll see you in just a second. Alrighty, so we are done sideboarding here. We're going to go ahead and have Hunter start first. What are you bringing in? What are you taking out, and why?
So the only thing that I really think that I can bring in against the Dragon's deck is 2 Atraxis Falls and cutting 2 Mana Gorger Hydras. Maybe on the draw, I would bring in 2 Fateful Absence and cut the other 2 Mana Gorger Hydras. I like having at least a couple of my 3 drops to be on curve. I just don't think that I can afford to cut too many of my creatures or my interactive spells I already have against your deck, so it's just going to be a very small sideboard plan for me.
Okay, fair enough. So, at least for me, I'm boarding in 2 Cindervines, 2 Rending Volleys, and the 2 Flame Sweeps. Cindervines is great just because it blows up artifacts and enchantments, and you're playing some, artifacts and enchantments that are really good. We didn't see any hardened scales so far, at least in play, and I do want to blow those up because they're very problematic. Rending Volleys is great because you're playing a lot of white creatures, which, like you're playing the Luminarchs and you're playing the Conclave Mentors, so that's why we're playing the Rending Volleys. Flame Sweep, it was really mixed on bringing in the Flame Sweeps. It's really good, like turn 2, turn 3, but past that, most of the time it's not going to be able to kill any of your creatures. To fill these in, I decided to cut the Domries. They're not fantastic. I know it was like, it kind of won me the game a little bit in game 1, but I don't think it's really that good in this matchup. I cut the 1 Devastator. It is the worst dragon in the deck overall. I want to be able to play... I would rather have Etsushi on turn 3, maybe to have up for defense as opposed to the Shiva Devastator, because we're more like control-y in this matchup. And then I cut 2 Elvish Mystics. You're not really killing a lot of my elves in this matchup, so if we get 1 elf, we're sold, we're good, and we don't have the potential for like turn 1 elf into Domri elf because we are cutting the Domries. So I think the elves are not as good. And obviously, if we're flame sweeping, our elves are going down anyways. So that's what I decided to do for the sideboarding here. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and shuffle up, and we'll see you for game 3. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and keep on 6 here. My hand is okay. I have a Cindervines, a Reckless Stormseeker, and a Glorybringer, and a couple lands. It's definitely a weaker hand, but I think it's better than going to 5. Hunter, you're keeping 7, right?
I am going to keep 7. I've got 2 lands, even though my issue has been my land issue, but in this hand, I actually have a Hardened Scales, a Luminarch Aspirant, a Stonecoil Serpent, which we haven't seen, which is really good, and I actually managed to get both of my sideboard cards in my opening hand, so we are definitely going to keep this.
All right, and then Hunter, you are on the play.
And I am going to start us off by playing a Branch Loft Pathway and casting a Hardened Scales. Hardened Scales is a 1 green enchantment that states, if 1 or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature I control, that many +1 are put on there instead. I'm going to pass the turn.
Oh, we didn't get the elf. So I drew another forest, and that's what I bottomed.
Oof.
All right, we'll go ahead and play the Carposion Forest, and we'll pass.
I'm going to untap and draw for turn. I'm going to draw the second Stonecoil Serpent, which will be nice for later. We are going to play Brushland. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to pay 1 life for the white mana here, because I'm going to cast a Luminarch Aspirant. At the beginning of combat on my turn, even though it just came in, this still triggers. It's going to trigger itself and put 2 1/1 counters on itself because of Hardened Scales giving it an extra 1. And I'm going to pass the turn.
I don't think I've ever wanted an Invasion of Terrakir more than I do right now. Oh, but we did draw something pretty good, because, you know, we're just that good at this game. I'm going to go ahead and play a Crag Chrome Pathway on... I think we go ahead and play it on red here. Actually, no, we'll play it on green. We'll play a Timber Chrome Pathway. We're going to go ahead and pop it off now. I did draw the Draconic Roar, Revealing Glorybringer, so we're going to do 3 to Aspirant and then 3 to Hunter, so he's going to go to 16, that was a crazy draw. I think if I wouldn't have drawn that, I probably would have died. So, go ahead.
We are going to untap and draw for turn. And we are going to draw another Luminarch Aspirant. So we are going to pay 1 for a white and cast another Luminarch Aspirant. And as the kids say, we will do the Time Warp again and put 2 counters on it and pass the turn.
Okay, now we just need another one. Oh, it's so close. I drew a Flame Sweep. Okay, so I think in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and I think I'm going to play our Cindervines here. So I am going to take 1, and we're going to go ahead and play Cindervines. We could blow up the Hardened Scales now, but I think we'll go ahead and wait. I think right before he plays a creature, potentially, I think that's when we're going to go ahead and pop it off. So we'll go ahead and pass.
I'm going to untap and draw for turn. And I am going to draw my 3rd land. Now, normally in this situation, I would have liked to just go ahead and play Stonecoil Serpent. I am afraid that he is just going to blow up my Hardened Scales in response to me playing the Stonecoil Serpent. But with having 2 of them out, I still think we're going to play it. It also doesn't cost me any life this turn because I get to tap my 2 My Brush lands for colorless mana and 1 green. And we are going to cast a Stonecoil Serpent for 3.
I will respond to that. And I'll go ahead and crack our Cindervines now and blow that up. Just because otherwise it'll get an additional counter with the Hardened Scales, and we want to prevent that. So then you'll also take 2 from the Cindervines, so you'll be at 13.
Now, in that situation, I could have tried to Atrax's Fall the Cindervines, but he would have just, in response, blown it up and left me with no mana to do really much of anything.
And you would have taken a damage, too.
And I would have taken damage to do it. So we are going to have that as 3. We are going to move to combat and trigger Luminarch Aspirant. I'm going to put a 1/1 counter on itself so we can attack for 4.
I'm going to go to 15.
And I'm going to pass the turn.
All right, so definitely not looking too good for us here. He's got 2 4/4s. So if we draw an Invasion, we could take out the Luminarch. I think that's potentially our best draw here. We'll go ahead and see what we draw. We did draw a Thunderbreak, which isn't terrible. If he does put a counter on the Stonecoil, then we can trade with the Thunderbreak. So we'll go ahead and we'll play the Thunderbreak. We do got to take 1 damage, though, from our Carpusian Forest. And we'll go ahead and pass.
So I'm going to untap and draw a card for turn. And here we had just drew a Dramoka's Command. Which, if I sequence this right, I will be able to get a full attack in and kill his creature. So what I am going to do is move to combat, and I'm going to target Luminarch Aspirant with its own ability. But before I declare attackers, I am going to tap this for a green and this for a white and pay 1 life to go to 12. And I am going to cast a Dramoka's Command. And Dramoka's Command is going to then put a 1/1 counter on my Luminarch Aspirant. And I will have Luminarch Aspirant as a 6/6 fight his 4/4 Thunderbreak Regent.
All right. So he will take 3 damage with the Thunderbreak's ability. But, yep, Thunderbreak goes down, and I am in trouble.
And even though I took some damage there, I am going to go ahead and attack him for 9.
All right, I'm at 5.
And I will pass the turn.
All right, well, I think we're probably dead here. I don't think there's anything I can draw that can get me out of this. We got the land. I could play the Glorybringer and exert and kill the Stonecoil, but then I would be taking 6 on the Crackback. I have Reckless Stormseeker, so I guess technically we can play the Stormseeker to block. yeah, I think that's really all we can do. So I'll go ahead and play Reckless Stormseeker, and then it becomes day, and I'm not going to attack, and I'm going to pass to you.
So I'm going to untap and draw a card for turn.
We'll make this red.
Okay. And so with him go ahead and playing his Reckless Stormseeker, we're just going to go right ahead into at the beginning of my combat so I can put a 1/1 counter on my Stone Coil Serpent and make it a 4/4. That way it would survive combat if he decided to block it. And we are going to go ahead and attack for 9.
All right. Yeah, 10. Yep. 10. So, yep, I got a block here. Take 4. I'm going to go to 1. I don't have any Carplusion Forest for my colored mana anymore.
And on my second main phase, even though it seems like this game is going my way, we are going to just flood the board, go ahead and play a Mana Gorger Hydra on my main phase 2, and pass the turn.
All right. Well, we'll draw. We drew another Reckless Stormseeker. Well, I think we're pretty much dead, so we'll just go ahead and be a jerk, and we'll exert on the Gorger Hydra, and we will die. So, all right, yeah, definitely scales. It looked like you went rolling that time. I mean, it looked like, I think you had a pretty, because it was scales on 1, and then the Luminarch on 2.
Scales, Luminarch.
If I did not draw that Luminarch, I was probably dead about 1 to 2 turns earlier.
The Draconic Roar?
Yeah, the Draconic Roar.
Yeah.
If I didn't draw the Draconic Roar, I probably was dead.
Yeah,
so.
When this deck gets going, it can definitely start to become very, very potent with how the creatures get bigger and bigger.
Right, absolutely. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and shuffle up, and we'll see you in our last game in Game 4. All right, so I am keeping 7 here, and Hunter's on 6. So my hand looks... It's just 4... It's 3 removal spells and a Cindervines and lands, which honestly is kind of pretty solid for playing against Hunter's deck. Hunter, how's your hand looking?
My hand's looking pretty solid. The mulligan hurts, but we have 3 creatures and 3 lands, so we're just going to go ahead and run right with it.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and lead on Carplusion Forest. Go ahead.
I'm going to draw for turn. I'm going to play a Branch Loft Pathway on green, and we are going to play an Experiment 1. I'm going to pass the turn back.
Experiment 1. All right, well, I cannot Rending Volley that, so I'm going to go ahead and draw. And we drew Carplusion, well, Copperling Gorge, which is pretty handy. So I think right here, we're just going to go ahead. We're going to cast Invasion of Tark here. I'm going to have you defend it, and when it enters, I'm going to deal 2 damage to any other target. I'm going to deal 2 to the Experiment 1.
Experiment 1 will die.
And then I'll pass to you.
I will untap and draw for turn. We are going to play a Boulder Loft Pathway, so the Branch Loft Pathway on the white side. And then I am going to go ahead and play a Luminarch Aspirant. We're just going to move to combat, put a counter on itself, and pass the turn.
All right, so we do have the Rending Volley for the Luminarch. Drew a Lair, which is a little awkward. But I think in this case, I think we go ahead and play the Cindervines, and then we just Rending Volley his creature. So we will play... We'll go ahead and play Crag Crown on red. Yeah, we'll go ahead and play it on red. So we're going to tap 2 and play a Cindervines. And then I'm going to tap 1, I'm going to take a damage, and I'm going to Rending Volley his creature right away. We're just going to go ahead and get that out of the way. And go ahead.
I'm going to untap and draw for turn. Drew another land, which not really what I was looking for, which obviously makes me regret my mulligan decisions, but hindsight's 20/20. So we're just going to go ahead and play the Brushland for turn. I'm going to tap it and the white from Boulder Loft Pathway and go ahead and cast a second Luminarch Aspirant. We're going to move to combat.
I hate that card.
Put a counter on it. Pass the turn.
All right, so we got the Draconic Roar in hand, thankfully, so we're able to take care of the Luminarch. At this point, we're hoping he doesn't have a Snakeskin Veil, but if he does, so be it. So yeah, we'll go ahead and we will Draconic Roar it, and we don't have a dragon, so we're just going to have to deal 3.
And I do not have any interaction to stop that, so it is going to go down.
Go ahead.
We untap and draw for turn. So we drew a 1-drop, which is going to go very, very well with this play of mine here. So we're going to play Branch Loft Pathway on green. We're going to tap it for a green and play Experiment 1. Then I'm going to go ahead and tap these 2. That way I don't have to take a damage from tapping Brushland. And we're going to play a Botanical Brawler.
Oh, yikes.
So, Botanical Brawler is a 2/2 trample that enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. And if one or more counters are put on another, one or more +1/+1 counters are put on another permanent I control, if it's the first time that +1/+1 counters have been put on it, I may put a +1/+1 counter on Brawler. So, when Brawler enters, it triggers Experiment 1, and Experiment 1 will get a +1/+1 counter on it from Evolve, which will then trigger my Botanical Brawler's second ability to put a 1/1 counter on itself. So
Gross.
then I will now have a 2/2 and a 3/3, and I will pass the turn.
Alright, well, we're kind of hoping for a Glorybringer at this point, because we definitely need to kill the Botanical Brawler. We have 2 lands in hand, so let's see what we draw. And we drew an Elf, which is definitely not what the Doctor ordered. Couldn't play the Mountain. I mean, could activate the Lair for 3, which, I mean, honestly, trading the Botanical Brawler doesn't feel, potentially trading for that doesn't really feel that bad, because we do kind of have to kill it. So, and I don't mind getting counters off of our Invasion at this point. So I think that's probably our best option. I think we just go ahead and activate the Lair for 3, and then I will move to combat, and then I'm going to attack the Invasion for 3.
So normally I would like to stop him flipping his Invasion of Tarkir, because it is a very good card on the back half. Unfortunately, I don't want to trade my 3/3 with his Lair, because I need to start applying more severe pressure to him. So we're just going to go ahead and let the Invasion take 3 damage.
All right, so that's a 2, and then it's your go.
So I'm going to untap and draw a card for turn. We drew another land, which is not really where we want to be at right now, but we are just going to go ahead and play it tapped anyways, and we're just going to attack him for 5 and start racing away.
All right, I'm 14.
And we're going to pass the turn.
All right, definitely hoping he does not have a Dramoka's command here, because that would be a blowout, assuming we don't draw anything. And we didn't draw anything. We drew another land, so... yeah, at this point, I think we just go ahead... We can just make the Lair a 2/2, and then we can play our Elf on the backside here, which would probably be our best option. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, let's see. All right, so yep, we'll go ahead and activate Lair for 2, and then I will move to combat, and I will attack the Invasion for 2.
So, since he has declared an attacker, we do have a special trick up our sleeve. One of our lands is a channel
Isn't
land.
a Ganjo?
So, we are actually going to channel and discard a Ganjo Seat of the Empire by paying 2 colorless and a white to deal 4 damage to target attacking creature.
Gross. Alright, well, we lost our Lair, which is kind of unfortunate, but we're going to go ahead and take 1, and we'll just play an Elf. We'll get it out there. And we will pass the turn.
So I'm going to untap and draw a card for turn. We are drawing yet another land for turn.
So we're the land bros.
We're just going to go ahead and play that tapped. And at this point, I am going to just attack with my 3/3. I'm going to hold back my Experiment 1 just in case he decides to attack the Invasion.
All right, and I'm going to go to 10.
And we are going to pass the turn.
All right, definitely we need something good here. Another Invasion wouldn't even be terrible, because that way we could flip the Invasion of Tarkir. Reckless Stormseeker would be really good right now. We definitely got a lot of good draws. And would you look at that? We drew another Invasion. So we'll go ahead for 2. We're going to go ahead and cast Invasion of Tarkir. And then trigger, we're going to go ahead. We could take out the Experiment 1, but I think we're just going to go ahead and we're going to deal 2 to our Invasion here. So that's going to get counters. And then we are going to cast Defiant Thundermaw. Defiant Thundermaw is a 4/4 flying trampler. Whenever a dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage to any target. And at that point, I will pass to you.
We are going to untap, and we are going to hopefully draw something interactive for the turn.
I hope you don't.
And we are going to draw yet another land for turn. So, we are just going to go ahead and pass. We don't have very good attacks from him having a 4/4, and we're just going to hold the land and act like it's something that it's not.
All right, well, we drew a good land, but unfortunately, we wanted that last turn. We drew a Mutavault, which would have been really good with our Defiant Thundermaw. So I think in this case, I think we're going to actually just use Defiant Thundermaw. We can go ahead and attack our Invasion, and we can deal 2 damage to it, so we can go ahead and actually just transform it. So we're going to do that. We're going to move to combat. I'm going to attack Invasion Tark here for 4. Trigger, I'm going to deal 2 damage to the invasion. So it'll go to 3.
And I have no effects.
Alright, so we're going to get another Defiant Thundermaw. We are mono Thundermaw right now. So we'll go ahead and play that, and we'll pass the turn.
We're going to untap and draw for turn. And we are going to draw yet another land for turn.
Oh my god.
So we're just going to play Temple Garden
Christ.
tapped and pass to Eli and let him show you guys what cool things 2 Defiant Thundermaws can do.
Alright, well, we'll draw. We drew a Flame Sweep, which is not really what the doctor ordered right now. We got another Haven in the Spear Dragons. Okay, so what's really great with Mutavault in this deck is we can make it a 2/2 creature with all creature types. So, Defiant Thundermaw, when it says whatever dragon you control attacks, it deals 2 damage, we can just go ham. So, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and activate our Mutavault here. We're going to move to combat. So, I'm going to... We'll just attack with, I mean, I do have 1 card in hand. So, I think we technically know it's a land, but we're not going to... We're obviously pretending we know that it's not a land. So, we're going to leave the Elf back just in case. We're going to go ahead and attack with our 2 Defiant Thundermaws and our Mutavault. So we have 6 2-damage triggers here. So we're going to go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do... So we're going to do 2 triggers here, 1 trigger there, and then 3 triggers to the dome. So we're going to go ahead and put Hunter to 14, and we are also attacking for 10.
So that puts me down to 4.
All right. At that point, I think Hunter... I don't think there's anything Hunter can draw, but we'll go ahead and pass. I don't think there's anything he can draw.
Untap and draw for turn,
Even
and we're going to draw another land.
20 lands in the deck?
21.
21 lands. You probably, drew like all Luminarch? That was probably your 1 draw the entire game?
I didn't have these 2 in my opening hand.
Okay, so it was those and then just a bunch of lands, so... Wow, what a...
This, I believe, was my opener. Was this right there.
Which is a perfectly fair keep. Like, that's solid. That's kind of right where you want to be, so... Yeah, wow.
Was not in the running today.
1 Stoicoil Serpent, honestly, that would have changed the entire game, because I couldn't have even killed it with the Cindervine, so...
Yeah, there is a cool thing about Stonecoil Serpent is that there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of multicolored cards running around in Pioneer right now. And Stonecoil Serpent's one of those cards that people read it and they're like, yeah, whatever, it's just a creature. And then they go to attack or kill it, and it's got protection from multicolored. It also has reach and trample. It's got a lot of words that people don't like to read, and it sometimes can just sneak in there for good wins.
Right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and finish up sideboarding. We're going to have some closing thoughts here, and we'll catch you in just a second. Alrighty, well, looks like first video out of the way here. That was really fun. I've been wanting to do paper content for a while, so it was pretty awesome that we were able to do it here. I think the rounds were pretty interesting. Well, some of them were. Like I would say the first 2 were like pretty good games. Game 3, you had a really fast start, just bam, bam, and then Game 4, like, you could have turned it around and you had a great start, but then you just ripped, like, what, 4 or 5 lands in a row, something like that?
There was definitely a good amount of cards that I could have drawn instead of lands there. Any cards would have been better, of course. Sometimes that just happens, but yeah, like, in that situation specifically, I think that if I would have drawn a card like Dramoka's Command or maybe a Stonecoil Serpent, that it would have been able to shape things a little bit better in my direction, hopefully have a little bit of interaction or have a nice big blocker for your dragons.
Right, yeah, dragons. Yeah, it turns out you need to kill the dragons, otherwise bad things happen. So, all right, well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on our first paper episode here. As always, the deck list for us will be in the description below if you'd like to check them out for yourself. And also in the description will be links for Hunter's Facebook gaming page as well as his Twitch account. Go ahead and subscribe to him. Go ahead and follow him there, and I'm sure Hunter will be featured in some upcoming paper episodes here. It's not going to be exactly one person as of right now. I think we'll have a good rotation, that kind of thing going here. But, Hunter, thank you very much for being on this episode.
Indeed, it was very enjoyable. I'm glad to have been here, and I am excited to help make some more paper content in the future.
All right, perfect. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining. We'll catch you on the next one.